Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So we've got a very early one today. For anyone who doesn't know, my name's Vicky Marie. I am in Spain, in Europe. It is very early in the morning. I'm just on my very first cup of coffee. It is 5 minutes past 7 a.m. But I wanted to come on and give you this news about this case we've been following of this little boy, only 4 years old, cherubic face, over there in Australia, living with his mum and two GMAs and his little brother on a sheep station in Yunta, Australia, very desolate part of the world, very remote, has made the whole thing very difficult for the searches for him, etc. So let's just give you a background of what happened in this case. So, as I say, Gus is just 4 years old and he lived there on that sheep station with his two GMAs, which is unusual, but one of his GMAs, Josie, she had undertaken, I think, around about 10 years ago, had become a woman, was born a man, became a woman about and was living as a woman, but still with her partner, Shanann, who she was married to before she transitioned to be a woman. So they're the owners of this sheep station, and also on the station lived Josie, not Josie, sorry. Gosh, the mum's name escapes me. I'll have a look at that in a moment. It does begin with a J, I think. And her two sons, little Gus, who's 4, and a younger boy. I think it's Alfie he's called, but anyway, his name really, it doesn't matter, and it should probably be kept quiet. So they were all living together on this sheep station. So it was a little bit of a complicated relationship for little Gus's parents. His dad is called Josh, and he lived, although he and Gus's mum were still together, he lived somewhere else. And it's reported, but we get all these rumours, not officially confirmed, that he did not get on with Josie, the GMA, one of the GMAs. So he was reportedly living about an hour away. But he was still in a relationship with Gus's mum. Their relationship was still ongoing, and he was supposedly refurbishing a property there, ready to take the family to live there with him when the property was finished. Then, disaster struck I suppose they were living some sort of just all getting on with it. And disaster struck one Saturday evening when reportedly, or this was what was said at the time, um, Gus's mum and his transition GMA, Josie, were at the sheep shearing part of this sheep station, and Gus was in the house with his other GMA, Shanann, and his brother, who was looking after them while the other two ladies weren't there. Anyway, reportedly, what was said at the time, Gus was playing on a sand pile just outside the property, which is a sprawling property, as you can imagine. And half an hour later, when this GMA went out to call him in for his tea, he'd gone, disappeared. So now we've talked about this quite a lot. Seemed to me half an hour is a long time to leave a 4-year-old unsupervised. We've just been talking recently about Cielo's inquest in the UK, where he's literally just left 2 seconds and he fell in a river. Toddlers, they get into danger so quickly. so easily. Anyway, this was the story that was told. 1 minute he was there playing on the sandpit, the next minute he was gone. And they searched around for him and couldn't find him. And so it was surmised that he had wandered off into the outback, I suppose you would call it. Let me just say hello to, sorry, I just need to say my thank yous, don't I? I've forgotten that. Hi, Daniel. Happy Wednesday. It's Thursday, isn't it? Thursday today, Daniel. Well, it is in Spain anyway. Hi, Monica. Oh, what did I do then? Yeah. So then started this massive search. And all the way along, the police have been saying no evidence of a crime, no evidence of a crime. They're treating it as a case of a child wandering off and getting lost and possibly, succumbing to the elements. But we know, like the first day, they sort of, you think that there's a chance he might be found, and the second day comes, the third day comes, and really after 3-4 days, there's no way that little boy like Gus could have survived. So you feel that then they're just looking for a body, and then people were talking about possible abductions or possible animal, had he been attacked by some animal, all the different possibilities were thought of, weren't they? Then the police returned to search. I think they've been back 3 or 4 times. They've searched the property. They've searched, the surrounding areas. They had volunteers went to help. They've searched pretty much. And we saw the terrible conditions. It's very hot. It's dusty. The dust was flying up everywhere, which meant that even the search parties, one of their convoy got completely lost because they couldn't see where they were going. So you can imagine that for a little boy, he wouldn't have a chance really, would he, out in those elements? Then, of course, it transpired as well that when had Gus actually last been seen by anyone outside the family? Because this lovely little picture of him, which is the only picture that's been supplied to look for Gus, was reportedly taken in the March of last year, 2025, when he went to register for school. And Gus went missing. Was it October, November? Let me just check the dates that he went missing. A long, long time ago now. I mean, he's been missing for months. 27th of September. So he was last seen playing outside his home on a remote sheep station near Yunta, which isn't, if you don't know anything about geography of Australia, like me, it is near the nearest sort of big town that you might know, big city is Adelaide. And Yunta is about 186 miles from Adelaide. So yeah, 27th of September last year, 2025. We're now in February 2026, and nothing is known about what happened to Gus. Well, having said that, I say nothing is known. Obviously, something is known. So the big news, if you like, or the dramatic news is that at some point, well, when I say overnight, because of course when it's overnight for me, it's daytime in Australia, Gus's case has been declared a major crime and a suspect has been identified. Now, they're not giving the name of the suspect, but they're giving enough information that we can perhaps surmise who the suspect is. So they've categorically stated it is not his parents. So the suspect that they've identified is not Gus's parents, but is someone who lives on this sheep station. Well, from what all I know, unless somebody else lives there that we don't know about, that can only be either Josie, the GMA who transitioned 10 years ago, or Shannon, the GMA that was looking after Gus when he disappeared. One of them are the suspects. And reportedly, um, the police have said they've stopped cooperating, and when they were questioned more closely because of just evidence that didn't add up. The police have obviously been many times, I would imagine, to talk to them, and they said there are inconsistencies, and this is what has led the police to finally announce that they believe that Gus is dead, and that not only that, it wasn't an accident, he didn't wander off. This is a major crime that they're dealing with. So let's have a look at the article. Well, we'll probably have a look at a few articles. So, missing Gus Lamont, 4 believed to be dead, suspect identified. Now, I think we have to remember as well that very strange thing that happened when the Daily Mail reporter, which admittedly must have been really irritating, turned up at this sheep station, and Josie, one of the GMAs, appeared with a gun and ammunition, shouting for the Daily Mail report to go away. Now, as much as we know how irritating that must be, where your family member, a little boy like this, has gone missing, you've got the press at your door. Apparently, they've been told not to go around there. Must have been really irritating, but come on, who's going to then go brandishing a shotgun to tell them to go? I would personally, if it was me, I think I'd just phone the police, or I'd ask them to go, obviously, first of all. But then you might think, well, why wouldn't you want the press to be there, at least give a statement, because you want your family member to be found? Didn't they want Gus to be found? Didn't want to give any statement or anything. In fact, they've not given any appeals in person. Right at the beginning, a friend of the family read out a statement, but none of the family, to be honest, have done a direct appeal for whoever might know, and whoever might know anything about what happened to Gus. Quite often family members make appeals, don't we? We're going to, after I finish this live, I will be back very quickly with another live with an update on Nancy Guthrie. Her family, that's a case over in America of an 84-year-old woman that's been abducted, who is the mother of a famous sort of TV presenter, news presenter, and they've done an appeal already. So it's quite usual, isn't it, for the families to make appeals, but not in this case. They've been really quite recalcitrant, only providing one photo, not really talking about it at all. And I know that over Christmas we talked about it, all these missing people that, their families must go through hell at Christmas, especially for little boy like Gus. He should have been enjoying this Christmas, opening his presents with his little brother. That's what he should have been doing. Instead, it seems that the police believe he's deceased somewhere. So, so Josie met this reporter with a loaded shotgun, or a shotgun, and on the other hand she had ammunition, and then later said that she was about to shoot a snake on the porch, and that's why she had the gun. It was nothing to do with frightening off the reporter, but she did look pretty terrifying when you saw her there. Hi, Bluebell. When you saw her there with her gun, she looked pretty terrifying, didn't she? Because she's a very muscly person, and just looked quite scary and was shouting. And now I don't know that it is her that is the suspect. So all we know is one of the family is a suspect, or someone who lives there at that sheep station. So it's going to be either Josie or Shannon, because they've said it's not the parents. So it's Josie or Shannon, or maybe both of them. Hey, that if they, both know about what happened to Gus. So the disappearance and likely death of a 4-year-old boy has been declared a major crime, with a person known to him declared a suspect. Well, we were sort of expecting that. Most crimes are committed by people who unfortunately, and especially children. It's normally when it is solved, it's normally, unless they've been abducted by a stranger. So the problem here was abduction was virtually impossible because of the geography of this place where they lived, and it was all surrounded by a fence, and it's a huge property. Surely Shannon would have heard a car in the vicinity. He was right outside supposedly. So Gus Lamont was last seen by his grandmother playing on a mound of dirt at a sprawling sheep station in outback South Australia on September the 27th. Now, I just want to say that if this proves to be correct, and maybe let's say Shannon is the culprit, make sure, did Gus have an accident? Maybe he was playing out there and she left him too long. When she went out, he'd had an accident. She hadn't heard him, she hadn't seen him. What I don't understand, why you would try and cover up something like that unless there was some intent, because surely you would just ring the ambulance or whatever, ring someone immediately. Why try and cover it up like this if it wasn't, deliberate? His disappearance from Oak Park Station sparked intensive searches spanning almost 500 square metres by hundreds of team members using aerial support and mounted units. Detective Superintendent Darren Fielk on Thursday said that Gus's disappearance had been declared a major crime. "We don't believe now that Gus is alive," he told reporters. So this is official information. It's come from the police. He said that a person known to Gus, who resides at Oak Park Station, had withdrawn their cooperation in the investigation after a number of inconsistencies and discrepancies were identified in the information they provided. And he confirmed that the boy's grandmother, mother, and younger brother had been on the property at the time Gus disappeared. Now, I'm 100% certain that in the early days they said that Gus's mum and the transition GMA, Josie, weren't there. It was just his one grandmother and his younger brother that were there. Definitely that was said at the beginning. Definitely, 100%. I remember it as clear as day. And now it's saying that the grandmother, mother, and younger brother. So where was the other grandmother? Anyway, then he said, "I do want to stress, however, that Gus's parents are not suspects in his disappearance." So sometimes the thing that's more important is not what someone says, it's what they don't say, because he's saying here specifically Gus's parents are not suspects, but he doesn't mention the grandparents. He doesn't say or the grandparents, does he? So, but if the mother was there at the time, how could something happen to Gus without her being aware of it? And he's saying the parents aren't suspects, which means it only leaves the grandparents, either one of them or both of them. So, it's a bit sort of, mystical what he said. Maybe he's deliberately doing that to put someone maybe he's trying to put someone at their ease. I mean, the thing is that we do have to remember that the police don't have to tell the truth. And when they're doing an investigation, like when they say, "Oh, no suspicious circumstances," or "Oh, blah de blah de blah," they don't have to tell the truth. They say what they think they need to say to try and solve whatever crime it is they're investigating. So yeah, he stressed that Gus's parents are not suspects in his disappearance. Investigators searched the Oak Park Station homestead on January the 14th and 15th, seizing items including a vehicle, a motorcycle, and electronic devices. And he said all these items are now subject to forensic testing. So what have they done with this little boy? If they've done something to him, either deliberately or maybe it was an accident, where have they taken him? Oh, it'd be that mine shafts again, won't it? Be all about, these, how, thing is, accidents happen. They do happen. And children do sometimes die by accident. They have an accident. But if you then hide a child's body, how could you do it? How could you do it? Put your child, discard them, out in the outback or wherever. I mean, Gus could be anywhere because that is a huge property. We've seen it's been searched. Mine shafts have been searched. Oh, you can't say that the police haven't tried to find Gus. They have tried to find him. But how, it's bad enough that let's give them the benefit of the doubt and presume that they did not kill Gus deliberately. That was an accident. How could they just cast him somewhere? You just can't get your head around it, can you?
Last year.
This is the police talking. Let's have a watch of it.
Today we have declared the disappearance of Gus a major crime. We have been investigating a number of possibilities in relation to his disappearance, that being that he's wandered off from the property, that he's been abducted by a third party, or that someone known to him has been involved in his disappearance and likely death. The work of Task Force Horizon over the last 4 months has found no evidence to suggest that Gus has wandered off from the property. We've conducted foot searching and aerial searching using specialised equipment out to a total area of over 700 square kilometres where we've found no evidence. We've also found no evidence that Gus has been abducted, and at this stage we believe that is highly unlikely given where Oak Park Station is located, the remoteness of the property, and all the inquiries that Task Force Horizon detectives have done to discount people who were in the area at the time. Our focus of our investigation now centres around people who are known to Gus, who may have been involved in his disappearance. Task Force Horizon continue over the coming weeks and months to investigate this line of inquiry. We remain committed and focused, as we have right from the start of this investigation, to locate Gus and to return him to his parents. If anybody has any information that might assist Task Force Horizon investigators that will help with locating Gus or furthering this investigation, I encourage you to contact Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000.
Yeah, so there you go. That's from the horse's mouth, I suppose you could say. He's might listen to that one more time.
Today, we've provided an update in relation to the missing person investigation relating to Gus Lamont, the 4-year-old boy who went missing from Oak Park Station on the 27th of September last year. Today, we have declared the disappearance of Gus a major crime. We have been investigating a number of possibilities in relation to his disappearance, that being that he's wandered off from the property, that he's been abducted by a third party, or that someone known to him has been involved in his disappearance and likely death. The work of Task Force Horizon over the last 4 months has found no evidence to suggest that Gus has wandered off from the property. We've conducted foot searching and aerial searching using specialised equipment out to a total area of over 700 square kilometres where we've found no evidence. We also found no evidence that Gus has been abducted, and at this stage we believe that is highly unlikely given where Oak Park Station is located, the remoteness of the property, and all the inquiries that Task Force Horizon detectives done to discount people who were in the area at the time. Our focus around investigation now centres around people who are known to Gus, who may have been involved in his disappearance. Task Force Horizon continue over the coming weeks and months to investigate this line of inquiry. We remain committed and focused, as we have right from the start of this investigation, to locate Gus and to return him to his parents. If anybody has any information that might assist Task Force Horizon investigators that will help with locating Gus or furthering this investigation, I encourage you to contact Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000.
So there you go. That's what the police have got to say. So they've examined whether he'd been abducted or wandered off, but they no longer believed either possibilities were viable. Do you remember they did find one boot print? One boot print. Oh, which reminds me, I've got an update for you on Jack and Lily Sullivan as well. I've got so many things to talk to you all about today, and I'm going to have to just do several short lives because in between I've got classes and I'll be taking number one son to work and picking him up, and I've got the members live tonight. So a busy day, but yeah, I was watching videos about Jack and Lily Sullivan, you know, because I did think there was a parallel there because, you know, there was a few boot prints found in the Jack and Lily Sullivan case who's gone missing in Nova Scotia again, but this time two children, young children. And it seemed to me strange that those boot prints, I think those boot prints were planted in the Jack and Lily case, and then there was a boot print found in this case. I think that was maybe planted as well. What's the easiest way to confuse people? You know, take the child's shoe, boot, or whatever, and put some prints around. Because in neither of these cases was there any footprints leading up to where the footprints were found, you know, in the Jack. And I was watching a video of Jack and Lily's friends, not their friends, but, you know, their mum's friends. In the Jack and Lily case, I'm coming more and more close to the idea that Daniel has got something to do with the disappearance of Jack and Lily. And I don't think Malaya had anything to do with the disappearance, but I think she knows inside that Daniel has done it, and that's why she left him that very next day. And I think that will, you know, there's a video that I'll be showing you of the police in charge of that. He's very confident that they're going to solve that case. So they're obviously working on something like the same with the police in this case. So the initial 10-day air and ground search for Gus was one of the largest that South Australian police had undertaken. In November, search teams focused on 6 mine shafts near the property, 40 kilometres south of Yunton, using specialist officers, but found no trace of Gus. Now, Gus is there somewhere, I think. I doubt if they'll have taken him off the property. But the thing is, he would have been easy to take off the property, I suppose, because he's so, you know, so tiny. It's not difficult, is it, to move the body of a child, sadly. You know, it's not like an adult, which is harder to move, heavier, you know, more, could be seen more. You know, literally, you could put the body of a child in a hold-all and nobody would know, which is a horrible thought, isn't it? So a 4-day search within a 5.5 radius of the homestead in early October also concluded without any evidence. And the family previously expressed their devastation over the boy's disappearance in a statement. Yes, but don't forget, they got their friend to read that statement out. The family have never spoken out, you know, themselves. Never actually made a statement themselves. They gave it to their friend to read. This has come as a shock to our family and friends, and we're struggling to comprehend what has happened, the statement said. So Gus's absence is felt in all of us, and we miss him more than words can express. Our hearts are aching, and we are holding on to hope that he will be found and returned to us safely. Well, the police are now saying that isn't going to happen. isn't it? The police are saying they believe Gus, little boy, is deceased. And, that's what they think and that's what they're saying. And they've identified a suspect, someone who lives at that property. So, at the end of the day, there's only a certain number of people that live at the property. There's Josie, the transition grandma. There's the other Gma, the one that was looking after them on the day that supposedly. Thing is, we don't know any of it is true. What they're saying, if it was Shannon who was looking after Gus. Was it? It could have been Josie for all we know. Now they're already saying that the mum was there at the property. I remember that the mum was not in the beginning. The mum was said to be at the sheep station, the sheep shearing station, with Josie, the transition grandma. Now they're saying that the mum, the grandma, Gus, and his little brother, they were all at the house when Gus disappeared. Where was Josie then? Was she at the sheep shearing station? Now he's just said that the parents are not involved, so we have to presume that the mum is not involved. He's just said that. So, who does that leave? Well, one thing we know is it's not Gus's little brother who's killed him and, disposed of the body. So it's got to be, their suspect has got to be one of the Gmars, if not both of the Gmars. Yeah, exactly, Bluebell. For all we know, the whole story could be made up. He could have disappeared ages before that. This is something, that we've talked about, isn't it? Because this photo was released of him was actually taken in the March when they took him to enroll him in preschool or nursery school. Because this sort of happened at the end of September. So it makes you wonder: did they take him, enroll him in preschool? Then something happened over the summer, and it's only come to September when he's supposed to be starting preschool that they thought that they have to even say anything, because these people live so remotely. Who would even notice that Gus wasn't around? So when the others went into the village, say, or I don't know, into town or where to get shopping or do whatever, and if they bumped into people they know, they say, oh, well, Gus is at home with his mum or with his Gma or etc. Nobody would think it's strange that they hadn't seen him for months. So when did whatever happened to Gus actually happen? Did it happen long before that it was actually long before actually they reported him missing? Yeah, Bluebell, you think the father would be asking to see him? Also, as they've said that it's got nothing to do with Gus's parents, you'd think his mum would notice, that he wasn't around on the homestead. Where was his mum? If the mum, so let's presume that they're telling the Gma's telling the truth, that it was that Saturday evening. Wasn't there football on the telly? There was some big Australian football match on. And if the Gma said, oh, there was Gus playing at home then, wouldn't the mum, it's just that he's specifically saying the parents aren't involved, but which insinuates that the parents aren't involved, but the Gmas are. So where was the mother, when Gus went missing? Was she at the house? Yeah, grand final, was it? Yeah, the last Saturday of the month. Yeah, it was definitely a football. There was a big football thing on. whether that could even be significant, because we find that these crimes happen, don't they, when there's big occasions. It seems to, because people maybe drink more, or let go more, emotions are high, or I don't know what it is, but quite often there's crimes when there's big sporting events on, or Super Bowl, etc. Yeah. But see, if you think, yeah, she could have been bathing the younger child, but so let's just picture, if you were there in the house, you've got the two little children with you and two adults. Now, supposing something happened, and let's just suppose that the grandma, I don't know, dropped Gus or smacked him and he fell over, and something happened to him. How would she hide it from the mother in that moment? Where would she would have to stash him somewhere, and then go running into the mother and say, "Oh my God, Gus has disappeared." But we don't know that that's not exactly how it happened. We just don't know. People do, there's nothing, truth is always stranger than fiction. Something mysterious has gone on here. Maybe the mum wasn't there. Maybe the mum had gone to visit the dad, or, maybe the mum wasn't there at the place at the time. Just don't know, do we? So that's what we do. So I just wanted to let you know what had been said. So one thing we do know now is the police have declared that they believe Gus is deceased, and they've declared a major crime, and they've identified a suspect. But up to now, nobody has actually been arrested or charged. They're doing these forensic tests on the car and the electronic devices, etc. And they say that one person, that's what he said, one person has stopped cooperating with the police after discrepancies were found with the things that they'd been saying. So that's where we are. Now, it's very sad, of course, but I think really after all this time, we knew that probably this little angel not still alive. So I just hope then that they manage to get enough evidence to prosecute whoever has done this to this child. And not only whatever happened, could be that it was an accident, but it's always worse what they do after, isn't it? I think, just hiding this child's body. Bad enough you've killed them, whether it's by accident or deliberately. Why hide their body and, just treat them as if they're rubbish or something? They just deserve to be buried properly and for people to know what had happened to him. How dare they cover it up? And they're the people who are supposed to love him. It's bad enough when children get abducted by strangers and terrible things happen to them. But you wouldn't expect. Let's presume it's the GMAR. Either one of them, you wouldn't expect someone's GMAR to do something like that and then cover it up afterwards. They've got to be a pretty foul kind of person, haven't you? Really, pretty nasty person. Oh, and I think it's worth saying as well that when that Daily Mail reporter turned up, irritatingly, and it is irritating for them to turn up, but Josie completely overreacted, didn't she, getting the shotgun, etc. But the other grandma, Shanann, apparently, according to the reporter, she just said very quietly and calmly, "Look, we don't want to talk, please go away." But it was Josie that totally lost the plot, and brought the shotgun out and everything. That later she said, "Oh, you're just shooting a snake on the porch." Of course that's what you do when you've got little children around, don't you? You get a snake on the porch, get a bloody great big pump action shotgun to deal with it, don't you? That's of course what you do. even though there's children around. That may be what happened to Gus. You know, maybe he was shot when they were aiming for a snake. I don't know. Hi, CM. He was taken off the will in August the 25th as a beneficiary. That's interesting. Do you know what the source is for that? The way you got that information from? You know, I will look into that. So that would be, because if that's true, I presume you're talking about little Gus there. I still think that Gus might have been missing for longer than from September. And I think it's took them all that time to cook up that story. That's my opinion. They've probably been talking about what we're going to say. You know, it makes sense, doesn't it? And then when it was coming up to, because they'd registered him for school, it's coming, you know, it's his time when he's supposed to be at school. Probably the school was saying to him, saying to them, oh, why is Gus not turned up for school? And they probably thought suddenly, oh God, we've got to do something. But then his mum would notice. They said that policeman just said that his parents had nothing to do. They weren't under suspicion. Well, his mum and his dad would certainly notice if he was missing for a month or whatever, or longer than a month, wouldn't they? So, yeah. So, but as I say, we don't know that that's even true, what the police say. It may be the mum that's under suspicion. The police don't have to tell us the truth when they're investigating something and trying to establish, you know, evidence and etc. They're not obliged to tell the public the truth. So all we can do is take what the police say. This is what they've said, and let's wait now for developments. But I hope there's justice found for this little boy. As I say, whatever happened to him, which could have been an accident, accidents do happen, but all this duplicity, you know, hiding his body, and do you know how much that search must have cost if we get down to cold hard sort of cash type thing? You know, imagine the resources that have been used to try and find this little boy, and all the time seems like one of the family members knows exactly where he is, and that these police had no chance of ever finding him. It's like a wild goose chase. So not only the money that it's cost, the resources that could have been used to find other missing children, because he's not the only one, is he? You know, so they could have been, if whoever it is would have come clean, those resources that were all channeled out to look for Gus could have been used to look for other missing children. And not only that, the trauma of the, you know, the searchers and that, you know, that's a horrible job. You're just looking for a dead child. You know, your best case scenario is if you find a child's body. It's horrible, isn't it? So it's not only whatever they did to Gus, it's what happened afterwards that they deserve to be punished for. Anyway, there'll be more to come out. So I just wanted to let you know, because we've been following this case. As I say, I will be back very shortly live. I'm going to try and get one more live in before I have to do some Spanish classes, because I want to give you an update on Nancy Guthrie, which is the 84-year-old lady. That's another crazy, absolute mysterious case from over there in Arizona in USA, and so the opposite to Gus, obviously, but it's sort of like opposite but the same. Vulnerable people, the very young, the elderly. This lady's elderly, 84 years old. The way the police have put it, she was ripped from her bed in the middle of the night, taken off to God knows where. There's blood found on around the apartment, the house, and you know, a ransom note apparently has now arrived, and they're trying to work out if it's genuine or not, because you know, a lot of nutters come out the woodwork, don't they? Especially because this lady's daughter is a famous newsreader. You know, so they've got to try and ascertain that this is a genuine ransom note. But that lady, she's been gone for 5 days now, and she needs medication and things. So, you know, it's worrying, isn't it? Is she still alive? I hope so. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about that shortly. So I'm going to leave you there, and just wanted to, as I say, let you know about Gus. It's been declared a major crime, and there is a suspect, which is someone who is known to Gus, is what they've said, a family member, someone who lives at that Oak Park station where he disappeared from, but not the parents. That's all we know. So thanks for watching. See you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.